what's going on, everybody? This is John Jake Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a little bit different of a video for you guys. As you know, as of the recording of this video, we are 1 week away from the semifinal games in the college football playoff that will feature Alabama, Cincinnati, Georgia, and Michigan all vying for one national championship trophy. But while we're waiting for those big games to actually play out on the field, I thought it'd be really cool, since we do have the updated 2021 rosters, to go ahead and watch play out who would actually win the college football playoff, at least according to NCAA. So, with that being said, I hope you're ready for it. Smash that like button, hit subscribe if you have to be brand new, and of course, you can always let me know down in the comments who you actually think is going to win this national championship this season. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the semifinal matchups. So with that being said, that does take us to our very first semifinal matchup between the number 4 seed Cincinnati Bearcats and the number 1 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. And I'll tell you what, some people say that Cincinnati's going to be blown out, but you never know, man. I mean, they definitely earned this opportunity. The only thing left to say, though, is we'll have to see it play out on the field. Who sees who's going to beat who here in NCAA 14. All right, man, so Cincinnati ends up winning the coin toss, so they are going to defer and allow this Alabama offense to take the field first here. We'll see how this ends up turning out, as the first drive, they're able to go down and get a field goal, but Alabama does jump to a really big lead, up 17-7, make it 24-7. And this is honestly what a lot of teams, have experienced when playing against Alabama, but they're trying to make a little bit of a comeback here, but it looks like Alabama just simply has too much, down by 23 points here in the fourth quarter, and Alabama will end up winning this one. They win by a final score of 48-22. We'll have to go ahead and check out the stats real quick here as we jump into the team stats first and foremost. So Alabama, ended up with close to 600 yards of total offense to Cincinnati's 465. They did have a similar number of passing yards, Ritter with 373, but the real difference here, besides just the sheer talent, is the turnovers. Cincinnati had a couple of turnovers. Unfortunately, Alabama was clean, and they ended up with over 700 yards of offense today, winning the time possession, winning the penalty battle as well. Cincinnati with 12 penalties. That's not going to get the job done either. And I mean, we saw that Bryce Young was the Heisman Trophy winner for the Alabama Crimson Tide. He was great here as well. It's 25 for 35, 350 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Did also see Chase McClellan also go off in this game. 45 carries for 194 yards, no touchdowns. Bryce Young and John Malachi III did find the end zone. This is with the NCAA 14 rosters at the beginning of the 2021 season. So Malachi will be hurt for the actual game, but they just have a ton of weapons here, let's be real. Jameson Williams, 9 catches, 131 yards, and a touchdown. John Malachi, 2 touchdowns off 5 catches for 66 yards. And then Slade Bolden also found the end zone, 2 catches for 32 yards. Finally, for the Alabama defense, Will Anderson Jr. led the team in tackles, and there was actually only a couple of TFLs, no sacks. Brian Young and Will Anderson Jr. Did have TFLs in this one. Christian Harris did end up with an interception, and then Jordan Battle did end up with a forced fumble, which he did recover on his own. No defensive touchdowns for the Crimson Tide. As for the Cincinnati Bearcats, they were led by Desmond Ritter, a senior redshirt from Louisville, Kentucky. 31 for 53, 373 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. So definitely pretty tough to deal with this Alabama attack on the defensive side. Jerome Ford, who was an Alabama transfer, he gets his rematch against Bama, and he found the end zone. 17 carries, 68 yards to go with it as well. We do also see 2 touchdowns from Alec Pierce, who's just big possession guy, loves to use his body. only receiver for the Bearcats that found the end zone through the air. There was also a few drops. Michael Young Jr. almost had 100 yards as well in this one, 5 for 94. Then we check out the defense real quick. Two guys in double digits, Darian Beavers as well as Joel DeBlanco, each had double-digit tackles in this game. Plenty of DFL, so I mean the defense, they did all that it could, but I mean Alabama's offense was just simply too much. They were dominated on the offense. Seems like the offensive line for Alabama, did its work. They did get a couple of sacks, so unfortunately, they did not force any turnovers. So we do end up seeing Alabama move on in pretty convincing fashion, but the question here is, who's going to meet them in that national championship game? We have the second semifinal matchup between Georgia, who did lose to Alabama in the SEC championship, and then we have the Big Ten champion going from, I believe they were unranked, to the number 2 seed in this thing, also won the Big Ten championship, dominating Ohio State and also beating Wisconsin pretty handily to end the season. So I'll see you on the field for this semifinal matchup to see who will go to the championship to play against Alabama. So the Michigan Wolverines did win the coin toss here at the Orange Bowl and will defer to the second half. So Georgia will start with the ball to begin this game, and Georgia, they were ranked number 1 in the nation for the vast majority of the season, really only stalling when we did end up seeing them lose in the SEC championship. But that being said, it does look like Michigan might be a little bit outmatched. They're down 17-7 early. They're trying to keep their offense at bay, but the Georgia offense, getting JT Daniels back, that is really going to cause some problems as Michigan's still down by multiple possessions and they cannot make a comeback happen. So it looks like, at least according to NCAA 14, we should see a rematch in the SEC championship. Georgia does beat Michigan by a score of 30-14. Diving into the team stats a little bit here, Georgia, twice as many first downs, so much more total offense, to be honest with you. Even 350 yards passing. Usually they have been gashing teams on the ground this year, but they did much better through the air this time around. Michigan also 1 for 15 on third down conversions. Went for it on fourth down 3 times and did not get any of the fourth down conversions. And the crazy thing is that Michigan won the turnover battle. Georgia had 3 interceptions in this game. Michigan was very clean with the football in this one, but could not do anything with those turnovers, unfortunately. Speaking of which, let's check out the stats on a more individual basis for Georgia first. And then JT Daniels, coming back from injury, rough go for him. 357 yards, but a touchdown and 3 interceptions. That might not get it done in the championship game, but he did end up finding the end zone on the ground. He had 14 carries for 37 yards in this one, with Zamir White getting the majority of the carries. But the biggest story here is Karis Jackson. He shredded the Michigan secondary in this one. 10 catches, 138 yards, and a touchdown with that. No other receiver got in the end zone for the Georgia Bulldogs. At least, catching passes from JT Davis. But then the defense did its job as well. Even despite not forcing any turnovers, they did not allow Michigan to move this football. Kelly Ringo, a freshman from Paradise Valley, Arizona, 6 tackles in this one. That leads the team. They did also get a sack courtesy of Nakobe Deem. And yeah, no turnovers, but they were very fundamental and only allowed Michigan to score 14 points. Now, like I said, Cade McNamara was trying to lead his team to the national championship game, but that being said, just did not have the juice, unfortunately. 16 for 32, 193 yards. They tried a fake pass, or not, a fake punt that turned to a pass. That was incomplete. One of their failed fourth down conversions. They did almost have a 100-yard rusher. Cade McNamara, he was running for his life. Didn't fumble the football, though. Hazan Haskins, he was bottled up. 14 carries for 42 yards. Just did not have an answer for the Georgia front seven, which, by the way, is just simply loaded with 5-star talent across the board. Nobody really special here for the Michigan receiving core. But the defense, though, I mean, it tried to do its thing. You know, Vincent Gray and John Ross, they were, and also David Ajobi, all three of these guys were flying all over the field. And, you know, a lot of them, you know, sophomores and juniors. Michigan certainly could be back next season. You know, they got a solid little squad. And this is me saying this as a Ohio State fan. I mean, like, them boys are cold. You know, they've proven that over the course of this season. John Ross got multiple interceptions. Vincent Gray got an interception as well, but not enough to beat the Georgia Bulldogs, unfortunately. So this will end up taking us to the college football playoff championship game, and probably for all sports fans outside of the SEC and outside of the South, probably America's worst fear, seeing the SEC championship rematch in the college football playoff for the championship game. So we'll see number 3 seeded Georgia taking on Alabama, at least according to NCAA 14. We'll go ahead and see what ends up happening here. We'll see who ends up winning the national championship game. All right, man, so here we are with the national championship game here in Indianapolis, seeing Alabama take on Georgia once again. We'll see if we can get a different result this time out, because if y'all remember from that SEC championship game, we did end up seeing Alabama dominate Georgia, but we're seeing Georgia with an early lead here, up 7-0 early, but a defensive struggle for sure. Alabama does get itself on the board, but Georgia quickly responds with a field goal of its own. However, Alabama just rips off 17 make that 24 unanswered points, 31 unanswered points before Georgia ends up scoring again, and Alabama is going to go ahead. They're going to win the college football playoff according to NCAA 14, winning 41-25. It was a really close game for a while, but that being said, Alabama, they pulled away in the second half, 21 unanswered points. Actually, no, 28 unanswered points in the second half in order to seal this victory for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Another national championship predicted for Nick Saban here as well. Can we talk about how good Alabama, or at least Bryce Young was? Heisman Trophy winner, man. Definitely lived up to that for sure. 22 for 35, 270 yards, and 5 touchdowns to go with it as well. Also, you know, being a decent threat on the ground. I mean, I know he had negative yards, but remember, for sacks, that takes away from a person's rushing total. But Brian Robinson Jr. tore apart the Georgia defense, 42 carries for 185 yards. Found some holes in that defense and took advantage of it once again. And Kirby Smart continuing to struggle against Nick Saban, his former boss, back when he was a coordinator for Alabama. John Malachi, 3 touchdowns, 11 catches for 145. Also saw Cameron Watu and Major Tennyson, both tight ends, get into the end zone as well. Defensively, we saw a name that I'm not going to even bother to announce, but the guy's name is Mathis. He ended up with double-digit tackles. That leads the team. Only 2 sacks, though, between Mathis and Justin Agobi, a true junior that participated in this game. Did see 2 forced fumbles, both of which were recovered by this Alabama defense, as well as 2 interceptions. So a lot of turnovers forced by Alabama in this one. And the offense for Georgia kind of let them down a little bit. 4 turnovers, you know, got to be a little bit better than that. JT Daniels was all right. 26 for 47, 315, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. We did also see Zamir White get on the ground. Over 100 yards rushing in this one, but did not find the end zone. Meanwhile, speaking of the end zone, Lad McConkey, that is a name right there. 8 catches, 113 yards. He did what he could. Same thing with Jermaine Burton, did their thing. Keenan Jackson, who had that really big game against Michigan in the semifinal, held a little bit more quiet. 3 catches for 28 yards in this game. Meanwhile, defensively, I mean, Quay Walker and Trayvon Walker, brothers, matter of fact, or at least I think they're brothers. I don't know. You all let me know down in the comments, but both with double-digit tackles in this one. Unfortunately, no sacks, no interceptions as well. and they do get a couple of forced fumbles, but I mean, they lost the turnover battle, and you know, you can't do that when playing against Alabama at the end of the day. So with that being said, that will wrap up this episode that I got for you guys. What do you think is going to actually happen when the games are actually played on the field? Do you agree with what NCAA 14 predicted, you know, using that college football revamp? Of course, you can let me know, but in the meantime, if you enjoyed today's video, you know, smash that like button for me, hit that subscribe button as well if you have to be brand new, and hit me up down in the comments as well with who you think is going to win the national championship this season. But that being said, this is John J Gaming on the mic signing off. I'm hoping you're all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.